All right, welcome everyone to our PodiumX Series 3 by Stanford GSB Lead Incubator and Startup Accelerator, Lisa. And thank you so much for making the time and joining in today. Lisa was founded by Stanford GSB lead participants for the lead community in 2020. And it is an ecosystem for innovators and startup founders to be sort of hybrid platform for incubating ideas to MVP and then scaling those ventures globally. We've already run 3 cohorts successfully so far and currently running its 4th cohort of founders. Podium X is Lisa's curated engagement speaker series platform designed for founders going through incubation program at Lisa. And the speaker series is focused on bringing insights from venture capitalists, founders, industry luminaries, thought leaders, product heroes, and the emerging tech ecosystem leaders. But first and foremost, designed to connect and learn from entrepreneurs who are living and breathing their dream, just like Babu today. My name is Deepti Pava. I am one of the founding partners of Lisa, along with Edward Munt. Edward is unable to join us today, but his warm welcome to everyone here as well. For today's session, we have invited Babu Sivadasan, founder of Jiffy.ai. Babu launched Jiffy.ai in 2018 and along with his team had already driven massive growth in the first 18 months of its founding and building a global team of 150 employees across 4 continents and serving a base of 20 plus enterprise across various sectors. And we learned today how much more it has grown. Babu holds a distinguished and proven track record as a co-founder and group president of Invest Net Retirement Solutions. There he spent 2 decades building the company in various roles, helping countless Americans towards financial wellness. Prior to that, he co-founded Stamps.com and served as its founding CTO. The company later went public. And he has also been a crucial stakeholder in building and supporting an impressive 17 startups up to date in some capacity or form. Babu stems from the state of Kerala in India, and throughout the course of his impressive career, his proudest accomplishment is perhaps contributing the creation of 65,000 jobs in his home state. So, welcome, Babu. Very excited to have you here today. There's such a big list of accomplishments here. It is going to be definitely a treat for the audience to get to know your journey. So, just let's start with, without further ado. We would love to hear a little bit about you, of course, but then also about your journey as an entrepreneur so far. I mean, you have a very interesting background on how you got started as an entrepreneur. So, tell us something about the very beginnings, very, starting of your career.
Yeah, thank you, DP, and thank you for everybody listening in. I would extend a very warm welcome to everybody. My background, so I didn't want to be an entrepreneur. All I wanted was a job when I graduated from the computer science degree. But for some reason, I was failing in all the, tests, that companies were, conducting, as part of, trying to get selected. And as I went through that, and I looked at all my colleagues at that time, and I was the one who badly wanted the job. A lot of people wanted to pursue higher studies and things like that. And when I was going through that exercise, it was difficult, painful, and 8 or 9 rejections. And then finally, as you go through that process, a deep belief got built that I was probably looking at the problem the wrong way, right? I was, instead of finding a job for myself, and I should be creating a job for myself. I didn't think, I was bad. I was okay. I didn't think I was great, but I was employable. I would be somebody who would get a job, and I would work really, really hard. That much I was very confident, and any employer who selected me would be happy. And eventually, in the end, the last employer who came in to conduct interviews, I did make it. But by then, your mind has already been made up of becoming an entrepreneur, right? So and creating jobs, So and I come from a place called Kerala, especially my hometown. When I graduated, there weren't many computer jobs available, software jobs available. So, I left the country at that time, with a singular mission that I was going to do something about it. So came to the US, got an opportunity at HP, but all my salary went to set up a small team in my hometown. And then, the team grew naturally. And, at some point I ended up doing 3 jobs at the same time, 6 to 11:30, 12 to 5, and 5:30 to 12. So I did that for about 18 months and built a solid base. And, as you work hard, luck, favors you, along the way, got an opportunity to co-found Stamps.com and then eventually co-found InvestNet. So that journey, of trying to create jobs, that's what got me where it is today.
Thank you so much, Babu, for sharing that. And I think you moved from India to the Bay Area eventually, and that's where you started doing your entrepreneurship ventures, right?
Yeah.
Although I would love to talk about Jiffy AI, which is your current venture, but just out of curiosity as well, within the early .com period, you launched an internet postal service, which in the US, which was Stamps.com, and took the enterprise that went it went public eventually, and eventually I think you also acquired a competition. Tell us a bit about that success story. I know it's long back, but it would be still interesting for our audience to hear that.
Yeah, no, so that was an early attempt, so we had my mentor, Mohan Ananda, so we worked on a patent application, which was, the idea was that, we can take any piece of software and make it work in a lease manner. So we're all used to subscription services. At that time, you consumed internet you consumed entertainment that way, you pay a monthly subscription fee. And so our idea was that, we could take any piece of software like Microsoft Office or something like that, and we would, instead of paying upfront, $500, it was expensive, right? And we thought, we could provide a subscription service, that would make it more accessible to a lot more people. And so that was the idea. But at that time, you go and pitch to, and we were all newcomers, and nobody would really take you seriously, and got shut down, because nobody wanted to. People, software companies thought, that was not something that they would ever do, because they were running very high margin businesses, and why would you go down to $10 a month subscription service, and today you look back, to 10 years later, everything is subscription, right? Everything, you pay a small fee, it becomes available broadly. So because we were not making any progress with the software companies, we were looking for an idea, and at that time, we partnered with 4 MBA students from UCLA, who all became founding team members, and applied this patent, to the problem of downloading postage, and that's we made it into a subscription or a pay-as-you-go model, and we presented that to Postal Service. Somehow we managed to figure out a way to work with them, and we were lucky to be at the right place at the right time, and so we went from an underdog, merged with our biggest competitor at that time, and had a phenomenal run as a company. I left when the company was about to go public.
Great. And now your current venture, Jiffy.ai, how has that journey been, like from its initial idea to now? I believe you started out at Stanford campus recently. And what was the initial idea or the initial problem space that you were exploring? What were some of the first steps you took as you ventured out? How did you build the team, that you have today? Just kind of take us through that.
Yeah, so my second venture, InvestNet, where I spent 20 years, so that's where I really felt I belong to the category of entrepreneurs, where you got to earn things the hard way. I take a lot of satisfaction from putting in real hard work. Stamps.com was a very short journey. We became very successful very, very quickly. But I felt I didn't earn it. So InvestNet was a real experience where we went through a lot of ups and downs, and eventually created the largest wealth management technology company in the country. But a lot of confidence, that came through in building a global team, taking a company from near-death experiences to a public company, and then going on to continue to be the largest. So towards the tail end of my career there, so Stamps.com was a very short journey, and when I started investment, I thought I would commit 20 years. So it was it's just a number. It just came to me, and I said, okay, well, I'm going to spend 20 years. So at least there was that certainty, because I believe a good company will take anywhere between 10 to 20 years to build, so and wanted to be there for that, journey and go through the real hard work of building that. And these days, you would find companies being built, massive $1 billion companies being built in a shorter time frame. But I still belong to the category of people who believe it takes about 10 to 20 years to really build a sustainable long-term company. So towards the tail end, so I knew that I was going to retire by the end of that 20 years. So that last 5 years or 4 years, within the company, I was doing really some transformation, automation, trying to bring more operational efficiency. And in the process, I experimented with a lot of technologies, and I found that to be very, very ineffective, the state of the technology, especially when it comes to automating things. There was a lack of cognitive abilities from the current vendors. And then the other real driver for me was computer science major. I hated the idea of humans sitting there and becoming slaves of machines, as I refer to it. Basically, you're trying to code, and you're trying to learn and do the machine's way of thinking, right? And trying to adapt to it, so, and that, that's a problem I've always wanted to solve, right? So which is, how do you enable humans to be able to communicate more naturally with the machines, and get machines to do a lot more work on our terms rather than us being slaves of the machines. So that objective was there as well, and these two came together, and so the third venture, I looked at it, I thought I had one more in me, right? But it had to have another 20 years, because that's how I thought about it. So I was 47, and I thought, okay, well, 20, that'll take you to 67. We could retire at that point, so but Jiffy is a unique experiment. One thing that I've always wanted to do very well was combine real ruthless innovation on one end, and then also trying to do something about a compassionate side of things, where you would invest in people and take the fruits of success from one end, and then in parallel invest in compassionate causes. So when I thought about I was going to go deep into AI, and the one thing I did realize, as an angel investor, I've been involved in investing in a number of AI companies and things like that. So one of the things that I've always been fascinated about is entrepreneurs not thinking about the after effects of the very own work that they do with AI, like which displaces jobs, and the fact that they were very thoughtful about it. So I would have always asked the question. So somebody would come and pitch, hey, we would put 3 million truck drivers out of business, and that's our value prop, right? But then I would always ask that question, okay, what happens to those people? Like, what do you do about those people, right? So a deep sense of belief that you will have to own certain amount of responsibility for your actions. So Jiffy is a unique experiment. Our largest shareholder is a nonprofit where, on one end, we can be ruthless about innovation. And on the other end, you can use that value that you create and redeploy in people or disruption that you cause, right? So it'll be a good balancing act, I thought. And time will tell. So we are in the early stages today. We are a small company. We haven't caused any kind of major disruption yet, but we our heart is in the right place, and we put a mechanism in place, that allows for, at least at my stage, and I would look at, I thought about, okay, well, when you're 70, you look back, would you be proud of the path, that you have taken on? Because at that point, you wouldn't be able to reverse, what you've done. So this was a very rewarding, satisfying journey that I thought. So on one end, you can pursue very ruthless, innovation, right? And that is change for the good, because we do a lot of work that's boring, that is unnecessary, that machines are better off doing those. And and we could use that human capital to do other things, so that was the idea, and we are in the early stages of pursuing that.
Right. And how about the team? How did you pull the team together? And how did you just start with a co-founder, or did you start alone?
Yeah, no, so it is a magic. 20 seems to be a magical number for me. So I thought, wouldn't it be great, if we consider early 20 people to be part of the founding team. So we have a very large founding team, co-founding team, if you will. So we put a team together, engineers, hardcore architects, user interface architects, people who are good at sales, so a good combination. Operations, we put a larger co-founding team together that way. And so the idea again was that when you have a larger team, you don't have to take on all the load yourself, right? And you would have a strong, solid foundation, right? Where people will be there for a long time haul, right? Because building a company does take a lot of effort, and a lot of people will have to work really hard, and that core foundation being together was important to me.
One question that most founders are often interested in knowing is that how did you acquire your very first customers? Was it like a tough road, or was that a problem that was pretty well defined and it was just a matter of creating an MVP of the product?
Yeah, I hold the belief that early stages, and as founders, you have to be in front of clients, and you have to make a strong case for the vision that you have, and get early adopters. And so fortunately for me, I was working very closely with a lot of clients at my previous firm, and so could sense some of the challenges, that they all want to pursue innovation. They want to operate in a very efficient manner. So the need was there, right? And being able to convince few early, or clients, so that I was able to do travel, and before we even actually started, the formally, we were investing in technology, and building that initial prototyping, if you will. And with that, we've been able to go to clients or prospects, and was able to secure a couple of them very, very early on.
Right. So basically, what you're saying is that it really worked from the perspective of you having known certain people. And I think what I remember from our last conversation is that you were, when you were working with Invest, and you were also finding some digital transformation challenges, right? That you actually
around my own 4 years of transformation challenges, that I was personally facing, where I felt, in the early days of the company, we would do things very, very quickly, but then as you grow, what happens is, change or simple things, that you want to do becomes harder and harder. It takes longer, a lot more people need to get involved. And I thought software development, as we know, is a broken process, where you have somebody who's imagining things, somebody who has the idea, but then to translate that, you have to have 7 or 8 different roles, all need to come together, and that is a very inefficient process, And can you imagine the power of all of that, to the creators, so to the imaginers, to the people that is identifying the business problem, right? And enabling them to be able to do all without having to go through layers and layers of translation, right? And that, I thought enterprise, especially in the enterprise software, Like architecture could be automated, so, design could be automated. Like AI technology can do a lot of those tougher problems, that you always rely on humans, right? But and then coding, obviously, you could figure out ways to automate. So that's what we do today.
Now, I also know that you are a ruthless product person, and you spend a lot of time actually in improvising and working on very fine details. So, talk to us a bit about that process on what founders should be working on when they are building their MVPs and focus on the core problem they're working on.
Yeah, relentless focus and attention to detail early on, right? Especially if you're a product person, you have to pay attention to every little detail. Like I get really offended if a pixel is off. So that it's I would say it's hard to work with me, like because that perfection is something that I look for, and I think good product people would take user experience extremely seriously. Now you want that magical experience with the product and resonating very well with the consumer of and having that wow factor, like when you put something out there is extremely important, and it's not something that you use great products every single day. So I tell our teams all the time, like, hey, there are phenomenal products that you use every day, like and that is something you're used to, and then anything you create has to match or be better. If you're putting something else out there for consumers or your clients, so that experience, nailing that is extremely important.
Thank you. I think one of the favorite questions for all founders at every stage is about fundraising process. And I see a couple of questions in the chat also, which are related to that. I'll ask one or two that I have, and then I'll go to the chat ones as well. Oh, we know it's sort of a chicken and egg problem with raising funds. Yeah? Did you anticipate that checks coming in from these customers first for your venture, or was it really something that you needed outside funding first to get your initial customers? How did you kind of solve for that in the beginning of your venture?
When I initially started very early on, right? So I do remember very clearly, like so writing to a bunch of venture capitalists. I came to US and looked at oh, I needed capital. I didn't know why I needed capital, but that I thought, okay, well, you need capital so that you can attract a team and things like that. Early on, it is extremely hard, right? When you especially in my case, I'm coming from a place and totally new to the environment here, and nobody would take a chance. That was very, very evident. The people don't know you, and frankly, I didn't have a compelling idea that was strong enough that people would bet on it. So it was more of my pitch was, hey, I could attract a team of people and we could do something great, right? That was the pitch, and that nobody's going to fund that. So, but the key revelation for me was that okay, well, if capital isn't available, your human capital is something that you have, that nobody can take that away from you, right? So I looked at okay, I could get 8 hours of work done in about 5.5 hours per day. So I thought, okay, well, you could do 2 or 3, and that could support a larger team. So that's how I went about doing it, and we did some products with that. I supported every month salary will come in, or I'll do consulting gigs, and money will come in and it'll just disappear from my account. But I was supporting a team. We built one of the very first chat applications in multilingual, like for example, like a country like India with 20 plus different languages and things like. So we thought we could enable chat in local languages. That was a very unique idea at that point, very early on, and this was back in the 96 97 time frame. So but internet wasn't broadly available for us to make meaningful progress. So a lot of learnings, so you end up being early in some, ideas, and that was too early, and you may not, the market timing is important, right? So, but you still try, right? So early on, going back to your point, early on, it was hard, right? To be connected, to know the people, to ask people to believe in you, right? So and especially when you have not gone too far in terms of an idea and then building it. So the best way for all aspiring entrepreneurs, so you have to put in the hard work early on and not expect capital. Today you could do a lot with very little capital, because so a lot of ideas could be realized without a lot of capital today. That's a good thing. 25 years ago, if we were to start a company, you have to have so many things in place. You have to go and buy massive hardware. You have to install it, host it, a lot of things that you have to do by yourself, right, as a company, right? And that took a lot of capital. And today you could pay a small monthly fee, and you could get all the support infrastructure. So you could build on top of a lot of platforms and service providers, right? So that is the advantage that you have today. And there's a cost of building something, launching something is much smaller, right? And then the second thing is you have a lot of accelerator programs and things like that. If you're serious about it, there are plenty of opportunities today. So that's a great path, because you get involved in startup ecosystems. You get to see what others are doing. You get into this really vibrant environments, whether it is the programs like Y Combinator and others. And so today I would go down that path. Now after a couple of public companies under your belt, you probably have a lot easier path, so in terms of raising capital and things like that. I was committed, for whatever I was going to do. I would put a lot of my own capital, into this, and so Jiffy, I'm a very significant personal investor myself, on the same terms as other investors. So because I believe in alignment of interests, very well, right? So you have to. I've seen entrepreneurs, very very successful ones, then go and repeat, but wouldn't put a single dime of their own capital at risk, and would ask for very entrepreneur friendly terms from the investors. But I never believed in that. You have to believe in yourself, which means that you have to put a lot of capital, whatever financial resources that you have available in it as well. Like the one thing that I strongly believe in is you can believe in what you're capable of. When you're investing in somebody else, you're taking a chance, but at least when you're investing in yourself, the limitations. You have to be self-aware, right? And then you have to invest in yourself.
That's a great perspective, Babu, and that's again, bootstrapping versus venture capital. A lot of people just run after venture capital a lot, and the moment you take venture capital, you're expected to achieve high growth, and your investors have just one singular goal: to have your valuation exit in a relatively short period of time, and that means that you have to have a business with very high growth, which is not always possible. And I think it's an important decision criteria for a lot of people. One, of course, it makes easy for you. I think for Jiffy was much easier because you already had a track record of 4 companies at least, that were successful, and others, and to be capable of either, I think it's important from my experience, venture capital is actually important for two kinds of ventures, two kinds of instances. Either you have a business which is like a winner takes all market, where one company dominates the market and everybody else is out, or where you need to grow the company to, where the scale is really required to be profitable. Otherwise, I think most ideas could actually benefit from bootstrapping and validating your idea and kind of taking you, to a certain level before you can negotiate your own terms. So great perspective there. Still, I think it's still worth talking about, because I think Amy also asked a very similar question. So you raised 53 million in Series B recently. Congratulations on that. Also
Thank you.
in 2020, I believe, and I believe you are The investors were like Morningstar CEO Kunal Kapoor and Richard Galanti of Costco, and quite a bit of good investors. So could you talk a bit about, maybe the relationship building that you went into to be able to, gather that kind of support for your venture, and how does it look like right now?
Yeah, so relationships, building relationships take a lot of investment, so for, forever, like ever since, I started my career, so I've always believed in, helping others, whether it is, somebody looking for a job, or somebody looking for something in their career. I would, if they reached out to me, I would always find ways to help, and with no expectation, right? And what that and I believed in building a large relationship, large network, that way, right? Where you could do little things and kind of make um, others aware who you really are, and who what you believe in, what the values that you cherish. And so I did that for a long time, and then eventually I had a need, and taking on a massive problem like no code automation, really transforming how the software is, enterprise software is being built and operated on, right? So that I knew would require a lot more capital and a lot more support from a larger ecosystem. So I traveled around the country in 2019. I went to a lot of people, and they were all very welcoming, welcome to their living rooms. And so I would spend time with them, and pitching the idea and things like that, and collected checks from dads of people, moms, so it was a very humbling experience, to kind of go through that. Again, uh, people would say, yeah, no, I'll wire the money. I said, no, like, I want to see you. I want to spend time with you. And it was, no, it is important, right? So and people have said, okay, well, this is my kids education money. That I said, hey, I'm working on a very long term time horizon. Like, this is a 20 years journey, so don't put any money in, like, if you don't have that time horizon, because it's important, right? So which means that you could get some sort of exit after 10 years or something. I mean, so it's still a long time frame, right? So it is important that you attract people who believe in that. And then for me, it was important also that I work with people who have built iconic companies, companies that have been around for more than 30 years. You find a lot of success companies who are instant successes, and then the next downturn happens, they disappear, right? So and I attribute that to lack of character and lack of discipline, and thought about how you build sustainable long-term companies. And it's okay to take a little bit longer, right? The instant successes, the mad craze towards that, I never believed in that. I continue to resist that temptation, right? So building something for the long haul. So I said, no, we'll never be for sale, right? No, we won't, we'll be around, we'll be patient, right? And so that kind of, when you work with that kind of a long-term time horizon, like, it is important that you get people together that aligned very well to that mission. So far, so good. So we've raised from institutional partners as well. The one thing, that when you go and tell investors that, okay, well, you're going to combine good elements of capitalism with good elements of socialism, in terms of trying to be ruthless capitalist on one end, and then try to do something meaningful with that success at the same time. And that's not easy, right? So a lot of well-meaning people have told me that, no, don't worry about the disruption that you cause, and that'll get taken care of. But I felt differently, strongly, and they do care for me, but at the same time, you want to do things that you strongly believe in, right? And so yeah, so far good. So we are capitalized very well as a company, and I think we can build a phenomenal company with whatever we have done so far.
Thank you, Babu. For those of you who do not know, An amazing, amazing relationship builder, as you can also hear from his answer as well. So it's also about not just going out and pitching and sending LinkedIn cold emails to investors. It's something sometimes much more important to kind of build relationships, and I think that's what Babu is kind of preaching. At the same time, there was one question from Shrikant Rajan. He asks you, very inspiring background. How did you deal with the competition?
Competition, I've been around long enough, so you have to get the best product out there, like, and you have to deliver value, and competition will always be there. If there is no competition, then the product or service, that you deliver isn't probably valuable enough, right? Because when there is enough value, there'll be a lot more people, and competition is actually very, very healthy, like, because it pushes you, it drives you really, really hard to be able to deliver and excel, because at the end of the day, customers do have choice. They when and you have to provide meaningful value, so that you have an opportunity to play a role in their life. So I believed in fair and very, very healthy competition. Like, we don't try to undermine, like, we have healthy respect for competition, and that's something I've always believed in. And I've always believed in the fact that one day competition today is probably a friend tomorrow, like, so and in the enterprise software world, you would run into a lot of what you refer to as competition, like, so in some areas, you're competing, but in other areas you're cooperating, right? So you'll run into that quite a bit. So today's ruthless competitor is tomorrow's friend. So you may be on the same side of the table. Personally, at InvestNet, we've been fortunate to work on 17 different transactions, and each one on one day, like, you were competing fiercely, and the next day you were together. Like, so I've been fortunate to work with some amazing individuals, like, my previous partner, Jared Berkman at InvestNet, an amazing individual, like, late. And so you learn from people, that you work with, you contribute to the process, but always treat competition fairly is something that I believe in very, very strongly.
I love your statement. Today's competitors are tomorrow's friends. Definitely. I mean, that holds true for a lot of things actually in life that people do not realize. Yeah, and there's one more question that Jean has, and she talks about your value sharing with investors and company team members. Do you have a take on that?
Can you come again? What do you mean by the value share?
Do you want to raise your question yourself, Jean, here, just to expand a little bit on that?
I'll try. One of the groups we have here at Lead, we've been looking at value sharing, value creation, and value sharing. And very clearly, you're thinking that way. I just wonder if you could expand on that. What is the value you're talking about that you are creating, and how do you share it, and with who? I'm just interested in the way you view the creation of value, and then how you're going to share it with these different constituencies.
Yeah. So with investors, value, and obviously our job is to create value, right? So and being investors, obviously you're sharing that value with your investors, for sure, right? But then we also believe in having no single person as a founder. This is again a core principle that I believe in. You don't have there are companies where founders will have 80-90% of the company, or very large portions of the company. And I believe that no single person holds that kind of value, right? And then, so I believe in sharing very broadly, like, so that's why we brought in 20 founding team members, so that alone tells you, like, how, you have to be willing to share and expect people, and when you do that, it's a mutual path, right? They will gladly, put in the effort. So, and you have to be willing to share with all your employees and partners. And so we we have a fairly well distributed equity structure within the company,
Right.
and that starts from the top.
One follow-on question really quickly. You mentioned the community, where you came from in Kerala. What kind of community value sharing do you see also?
Yeah, by the way, anytime we talk about your birthplace, you should visit. It's a beautiful place. If you haven't visited, look up God's own country, and you would find it's a very welcoming place and a very friendly place. But I live in Palo Alto. This is my adopted home, right? But your birthplace holds special relevance and special place in your heart as well. Like it's a place, in general, where a lot of social values and sharing of the goods, and things, helping each other, the things that we value a lot, and so that's a value that you carry forward with you.
Right. Thank you.
I was just going to add as well that he's created 65,000 jobs in Kerala. That's value
Oh,
sharing.
no, I wouldn't claim that, but I was there to create the early ones, and these are very virtuous cycles, right? So you create one, then that creates many. You need that foundation. That's what entrepreneurs are really good at, right? We create things. We believe in starting things. We plant those seeds and help them, water them and raise, help them grow, nurture them, and then they all become bigger and bigger. A lot of others will take on that baton from you, and and you can multiply that. So you're sort of the trigger more than you cannot claim responsibility for everything. But I was building products out of India very, very early on, when a product ecosystem didn't exist.
There's one more question in the chat from Sriram Babu. He's talking about, can you share some insights on how to scope your idea and how to iterate as we learn more from our customers?
Yeah, so that's something that we got to. By the way, we are still learning. So I don't want to claim that we figured everything out. So it doesn't matter how many times we have done it before. The next time you start, you have your chances are just like anybody starting, right? So I'll state that. But what is important is to have very short iterations, working with the clients, kind of presenting that, and getting feed soon enough, and get into this fail fast mode is very, very important. And early on, your early clients, early adopters, they are your best friends, and find early clients who actually will have a differing opinion. What you do want is some diversity. You don't want a narrow set of clients that believe in everything you say, right? So you need perspectives, so that you can make sure you've solved the problem more broadly than just being very, very narrow.
Thank you, Babu. It's a rather long question. I'm just going to read it out for you. It's from Benay. It says, in today's world where technologies and the tech environment is changing faster than ever, on one hand, and the time horizon of 30 years that you felt, 20 years that you felt, would be a benchmark for a business with vision. How do you think should we deal with the pace of change, especially the obsolescence of technologies and perhaps even social and commercial values, including competitiveness and the urge to win? Great question.
Yeah, so you iterate. Technology goes through major changes. It used to be every 30 years, a major innovation will happen. From whether it is from mainframe to client server, that was a major shift, and then from there to client server to more of web-based technology. Today, you do see innovation happening much faster. It almost feels like 5 to 10 years, something major happens. Today, everybody talks about decentralized, ways of doing things, so which is, these are fundamental changes, And what I always believe in as a software architect is that you have to be able to abstract those things out, and so that you can respond to those kind of fundamental shifts in technology. If you are an enterprise software, like the core business problem that you're trying to solve, and if you can seamlessly abstract that from the underlying technical dependencies, then you have a better chance of adapting to those shifts, very quickly. But even if, in spite of all that, you have to be constantly looking out for those fundamental changes, that happen, and you have to be able to embrace them early on, right? You cannot fight these kind of fundamental shifts in technology. That's what makes you relevant before you know it.
Great answer. What I was also actually thinking while you were talking was that, I think you were talking more about the sustainability of the vision and the purpose that you're after in applying in technology to enable that. I think that's something which is important. Of course, you have to keep pace, with the changing technologies and the customers and the expectations for sure. Alpa has another question. She says, is there a way to make a startup successful in services business driving digitization, which is a non-product?
Yeah, absolutely. So an enterprise could be created in providing a service, creating a product. Both are important. And what you do see happen these days is, that earlier there was a clear differentiation between who created the product and who sold it, right? And that we've created these divisions, right? Where somebody is always a creator, then somebody is distributing that, somebody is selling it to you. But then the web-based technology, what it has really done, and prior to web-based technology, even telephone-based mail order services and things like that, you enable the creators to sell directly to you, right? So what Amazon has proven, with a lot of products that they create, that you are buying directly from them. And so you are seeing a little bit of a shift of the services, is baked into the product in to a large extent in a lot of cases, where you are consuming actually a service, but the product is baked into that service. And you could create, phenomenal companies that way as well.
Thank you. In the spirit of time, we have 5 more questions. I'm going to pick the ones that are my favorite because we don't have so much time. I love the question from Pew. She says, I love your narrative. How important was storytelling to your success, be it raising funds or influencing him?
It is important. You need to let people know who you really are, right? So it's not, it is opening up your, heart and laying it out there. Like, that's the best way to get people to know you, and it is important.
Right. Storytelling sells, guys. That's the only one thing that sells in this world, trust me. Ron asks, you mentioned your attention to detail. What advice would you give to founders who are not detail oriented? Someone like me, I would say. And maybe Ron as well.
Well, we got to acquire that skill. So I still remember back in my very early days, I was not very attention to detail focused, and I was serving a client, and that client, so I was providing a report, like a financial report, right? And it took me 3 months, before I got it to his satisfaction, and that's what actually turned me around. So as a technologist, you would put a report out there, and you would expect, okay, well, the numbers are there, great, what's the problem, right? And he came back every time. I went through 15 iterations, before I was able to make him happy, right? And that in the process, I was becoming him. And so I credit a lot to one of my early clients, to bring that kind of focus and that kind of attention to detail. And now I look at it, it's hard to, be the old self. So, sometimes, you get experiences in your life, that changes you. right? And in my case, I was never that attention to detail focused in the early on, right? But along the way, I acquired that skill, and now everything I look at is with that lens.
Thank you, Babu. Maybe I'll just add one of my own as well. There is to have co-founders, who have the skills that you can perhaps lack. That's another way of kind of looking at it. I mean, it's
Yeah,
a
absolutely.
team that you
That's
work
another
with.
way you complement yourself. But again, today's world, you look for full stack capabilities. So and attention to detail is something that you want to bring it in, and make it as much a part. It is something that I don't think you can delegate.
Absolutely. Thank you, Babu. We have a few more questions, but really we don't have time to cover them. I would definitely take those questions, send it out to you if you're interested in answering them. Send us through email, and I'll post it to the forums. But before we close, what would be your advice to the entrepreneurs on this call today? One advice if they want to take away from you.
Well, kudos to you, right? So being an entrepreneur, taking that decision, making that decision, you are the future. Like I always believe, your ability to make meaningful changes. You could change towns. You could change cities. You could change states. You could change countries. With your efforts, right? Because normally, we are the creators. So you look back, and when something is created, your ability to imagine that future, right, and be able to inspire a bunch of people to go along with you and create that and realize that, and there'll be a lot of naysayers along the way, being able to still continue to persist and create that, that's I have so much respect for entrepreneurs. So I mean, all my life, so I've always enjoyed being at the garage. Even when I was building phenomenal companies, and I was, running a large operations, and my heart has always been at the garage. And so the 17 or 18 companies, that I've been involved one way or the other, has always been that desire to bring you back into that creation process, and the satisfaction that you derive. You have to enjoy that, and in my case, I enjoyed that really well.
Thank you, Babu. This was very insightful. One takeaway from me from this session is that you have to be very, very persistent and resistant. And I'm sure everybody has learned quite a bit from here. That's phenomenal what you've been able to achieve. For those of you who would like to know more about Babu's grit and resilience as an entrepreneur, I'm covering his story in my upcoming book, Trailblazer Founders. So I would be happy to share more info on that with you guys later if you guys are interested. And I remember one conversation from there where Babu mentioned that funds can be found in abundance. It's fundamentals that actually matter, and one has to give attention to the long-term consequences and spend money on the best locations correctly. So thank you everyone for joining the session today. Your wonderful participation through questions, engagement. Really appreciate you being here. The next PodiumX session is on 3rd June at 7 a.m. Pacific. We'll post more details on Workplace, so be on the lookout. And thank you so much again.
Thank you so much, everybody. It's been an honor to be with you all. It's a very engaging, participants, and a lot of great questions. And I'm on LinkedIn, and so any follow up, more than happy to take questions or figure out ways I could be of help.
There was one question regarding angel investing as well, so maybe you guys can connect on LinkedIn for sure.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Babu.
Thank you.
Babu.
All right.